Commander Vox staggered from the holographic battle simulator, his four eyes wide with shock, stunned disbelief etched into his scaly betazoid features, as he watched the unassuming human cadet, Johnny Freeman, high-five his squad mates, congratulating each other on their flawless victory over Vox's superior, simulated betazoid troops. Just 4 days ago, when the battle-tested alien soldiers stepped off the shuttle onto the immaculate grounds of the Terran Military Academy, he had been utterly unimpressed. The small, smooth-skinned, soft-looking human cadets that greeted him seemed laughably unfit to be warriors compared to his own species with their tough hides, natural weapons, and rippling muscles honed by the punishing gravity of the betazoid homeworld. Humanity's top soldier factory? It looked more like a daycare for the galaxy's most pathetic excuse for a sapient race to Vox. Welcome to the Terran Military Academy. I'm Cadet First Class Johnny Freeman. I'll be your guide and liaison during your time with us, Commander Vox. The 25-year-old human smiled disarmingly, shaking Vox's clawed hand with a surprisingly strong grip. Vox barely restrained a condescending sneer. This puny creature was humanity's idea of a top soldier. He intended to put this Johnny Freeman in his place. Johnny gave Vox a tour of the staggeringly advanced training facilities, from the endless rows of simulation pods where cadets battled in perfectly rendered war zones, to the brutal live-fire obstacle courses that would make even a betazoid's knees shake, to the state-of-the-art gymnasiums where trainees pushed their bodies to the absolute limits of biological possibility. Impressive toys and games, but that's all they are if you don't have real warriors to use them, Vox said, letting contempt drip from every word. You humans are too small, too weak. You lack the strength, the savagery within. You will never equal a betazoid soldier. A hard glint appeared in Johnny's eyes. With respect, Commander Vox, our cadets are the product of centuries of advanced bioengineering and training. We may look unassuming, but I assure you, we are not to be underestimated. Vox laughed, a guttural barking sound. Bold claims, little human. You want to prove your worth as soldiers? I formally challenge you and your fellow cadets to compete against me in a contest of warrior prowess. Strength, speed, skill, and tactical acumen. We'll see how you fare. If you lose, the humiliation will be nothing short of proof that humanity is an inferior species unfit for the galactic stage. Johnny didn't hesitate. He locked gazes with Vox. We accept your challenge. Prepare to see what humanity's warriors can really do, and eat your words. And so it began, a series of trials that would open Vox's eyes to the terrifying truth of human potential. In the gymnasium, Vox watched slack-jawed as Johnny and the other cadets lifted, ran, and leapt, as if they weren't bound by the same laws of physics as other life forms, their bio-enhanced bodies giving them near superhuman abilities. On the combat range, the cadets' times and scores with every weapon continued to shatter the Academy records before Vox's disbelieving eyes. In the bone-crushing obstacle course, Johnny beat Vox's best time by over 2 minutes, the human's body a blur as he vaulted, climbed, and dove through the brutal gauntlet while Vox trailed behind, clearly outmatched. And when they stepped into the sparring ring, Vox barely landed a hit before Johnny took him down with a lightning-fast combo of strikes that seemed to come from every direction at once, the product of a mind and body honed into a perfect instrument of combat. But it was in the battle simulator that Vox truly realized how badly he'd underestimated humans. Johnny and his squad moved like extensions of each other, every soldier a perfectly calibrated cog in a ruthlessly efficient machine. In a dizzying display of coordination, they decimated Vox and the simulated betazoid forces he commanded, the humans' strategically optimized tactics and sheer physical superiority crushing all opposition. In that moment, watching Johnny's triumphant expression as the dust cleared, Vox finally understood the depths of his hubris and ignorance. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the betazoid's level, they'd surpassed it, becoming the ultimate warriors. And if this single academy could produce soldiers of such terrifying capabilities, Vox shuddered to imagine the countless legions waiting in the wings as humanity flexed its ever-growing interstellar might. The implications left Vox reeling even as he begrudgingly congratulated the victorious human cadets. If Johnny and his squad mates were any indication, in barely a decade humanity would be not just dominant in this arm of the galaxy, but unrivaled in all of known space. And as he watched the deceptively unassuming humans, Vox wondered if anyone could stop humanity's ascendant march to total military supremacy, or if resistance was as futile as standing against a rising tide. Commander Vox burst into the Academy's main administrative building, his claws leaving marks on the polished floors. He demanded an immediate audience with the leadership, his voice echoing through the halls. Within minutes, he found himself in a stark conference room, facing Admiral Jandov and a panel of stern-faced officers. "I want answers," Vox growled, hitting his fist on the table. "What I've seen here defies everything we thought we knew about humans. How is this possible? What are you hiding from the rest of the galaxy?" Admiral Jandov leaned forward, his weathered face betraying no emotion. "Very well, Commander. You've earned some truth." He tapped a device on his wrist, and the room darkened as a holographic display flickered to life. "What you've witnessed is merely the tip of the iceberg," Jandov said, as images of vast underground complexes and orbital shipyards filled the air. "For centuries, we've been perfecting the art of warfare. Every human you see is the product of generations of genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancement, and relentless training." Vox's eyes widened as he took in the sheer scale of the operations displayed before him. Endless rows of cloning vats, armies of robotic workers assembling starships larger than cities, and fields of devastation left in the wake of weapons tests. "But why?" Vox asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Survival," Jandov replied coldly. "Humanity nearly wiped itself out more than once. We learned the hard way that the only way to ensure our continued existence was to become the apex predators of the galaxy." The hologram shifted, showing heavily fortified colonies on barren worlds and asteroid belts converted into military strongholds. "This is the backbone of our power," Jandov continued. "A network that spans half the galaxy, hidden from prying eyes." Vox felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the implications. If you were to launch a full-scale invasion, your empire would fall in days, Jandov finished for him, as would any other power foolish enough to stand against us. As the hologram faded and the lights came back up, Jandov fixed Vox with a penetrating stare. "Now that you know the truth, Commander, I have a proposition for you. We're sending an elite unit on a covert operation deep into hostile space. I want you to join them." Vox blinked in surprise. "Why would you want me along?" "To see for yourself what our soldiers are truly capable of," Jandov replied. "And perhaps to understand why the galaxy needs humanity to take the reins." Before Vox could respond, the door slid open and Johnny Freeman walked in, now clad in sleek combat armor. "Sir," he said, nodding to Jandov, "the team is prepped and ready." Jandov turned back to Vox. "Johnny here will be leading the mission. He'll be responsible for your safety in the field. What do you say, Commander? Are you ready to see the true face of human power?" Vox looked from Jandov to Johnny, a sense of dread settling in his gut. He knew that whatever he was about to witness would change everything, not just for him, but for the entire galaxy. With a deep breath, he nodded. "I'm in." As they left the conference room and headed towards the waiting dropship, Vox couldn't shake the feeling that he was marching towards his own doom. The humans around him no longer looked like the soft, weak creatures he'd initially dismissed. Now, he saw them for what they truly were. Perfect killing machines, honed by centuries of preparation for galactic domination. And he was about to see them unleashed. Vox's claws clicked nervously against the metal floor as he boarded the Nighthawk. The sleek vessel hummed with barely contained power, its stealth systems already engaged. Johnny and his team of commandos moved with practiced efficiency, their faces set with cool focus. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Johnny said, his voice all business. "Strap in. We launch in 2 minutes." The ship slipped away from the docking bay, its cloaking tech rendering it invisible to both sensors and the naked eye. Vox watched in awe as they effortlessly glided past Kazaran defense satellites and patrols. Initiating orbital drop, the pilot's voice crackled over the comms. Vox's stomach lurched as they plummeted through the atmosphere. The commandos remained calm, checking their gear one last time. With a soft thud, they touched down in pitch darkness. "Move out," Johnny whispered. The team fanned out, their movements fluid and silent. Vox struggled to keep up, his night vision inferior to the human's enhanced senses. A Kazaran patrol rounded the corner. Before Vox could react, 2 commandos struck. The guards crumpled without a sound. They reached the facility's outer wall. Johnny tapped his wrist computer and a holographic blueprint appeared. "Alpha team, take the east entrance. Beta, with me. We'll breach from the north." Vox watched in stunned silence as the humans scaled the wall with impossible speed and grace. Their liquid armor rippled, adapting to every movement. Within seconds, they were inside. Alarms blared. Kazaran security forces poured into the corridors. The commandos moved like lightning, their augmented reflexes and strength on full display. Stun batons crackled with energy, dropping guards left and right. Sonic disruptors sent others reeling, clutching their heads in agony. They fought their way to the command center. Johnny's fist smashed through the reinforced door like it was made of paper. Inside, Kazaran scientists scrambled to destroy evidence. "Freeze!" Johnny roared. Vox's eyes widened as he saw the containment tanks. Inside writhed masses of grotesque worms, their razor-sharp teeth gnashing hungrily. "By the stars," Vox whispered. "What have they done?" Johnny was already issuing orders. "Secure those specimens. We're taking them back for analysis." Suddenly, proximity alarms shrieked to life. Johnny's face hardened as he checked his tactical display. "Kazaran Armored Division incoming. Heavy artillery, tanks, the works." He locked eyes with Vox. "Time for Plan Exodus." The commandos pulled devices from their packs. Vox recoiled as he recognized them, miniaturized nuclear warheads. "You can't," Vox protested. "The fallout." "Non-radioactive," Johnny cut him off. "Latest Earth tech. Now move." They sprinted for the exit, Johnny carrying a containment pod with worm specimens. Rockets ignited on their backs, propelling them into the sky. From orbit, Vox watched in horror as blinding flashes erupted across the landscape. The entire facility and surrounding area vanished in a sea of fire. Back on the Nighthawk, the mood was disturbingly casual. Commandos chatted and laughed while reviewing mission data. Johnny approached Vox, his expression unreadable. "Mission accomplished," Johnny said flatly. "The site's been sanitized. Those bioweapons won't threaten anyone now." Vox stared at him, seeing the human for what he truly was, a killing machine without remorse or hesitation. "How?" Vox stammered. "How can you be so calm? You just eliminated everything down there." Johnny's eyes were cold. "It was a strategic necessity, authorized at the highest levels. This is what it takes to keep humanity safe in a hostile galaxy." As the Nighthawk sped away from the smoldering planet, Vox finally understood the terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't just catching up to the other races. They had already surpassed them all, becoming something far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The Nighthawk touched down in a cavernous hangar deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. As the bay doors opened, Johnny and his team filed out, their faces grim but satisfied. Vox stumbled after them, still reeling from the mission's aftermath. "This way, Commander," a stern-faced officer said, grabbing Vox's arm. "You're coming with us." Vox was led away from the others, down twisting corridors that seemed to burrow ever deeper into the earth. He lost track of time as they marched, the featureless halls blending together. Finally, they shoved him into a small, windowless room. "Wait here," the officer ordered, slamming the door shut. Days passed in isolation. Vox paced the cramped space, his mind racing. What were they planning? Why separate him from the others? Finally, the door opened. "Come with me," a new voice commanded. Vox was escorted to a stark white room containing only a table and 2 chairs. A human in a sleek black uniform sat waiting. "Commander Vox," the man said, his voice cold and precise. I'm Director Kovacs, Office of Xenological Security. Please, sit. Vox sank into the chair, eyeing Kovacs warily. I'll be brief, Kovacs continued. Your presence here was part of a sanctioned operation to assess Betazoid capabilities under the Citrus Accords. Now that you've seen classified human assets firsthand, certain adjustments are required. Before Vox could respond, white-hot agony exploded in his skull. He clutched his head, howling in pain. Through tear-blurred vision, he saw Kovacs calmly tapping at a control panel. The neural implant we installed during your initial medical screening is quite effective, wouldn't you agree? Kovacs said. Now, let's begin the real work. Over the next several days, Vox's mind was systematically torn apart and reassembled. Psychic operatives invaded his thoughts, extracting every scrap of strategic intelligence about Betazoid defenses, capabilities, and leadership. They forced him to relive his deepest fears and most painful memories, analyzing his responses to map out psychological weaknesses. Vox screamed until his throat was raw, but the assault continued without pause. When it was finally over, Vox lay slumped in his chair, a broken shell of his former self. Kovacs loomed over him, a cold smile on his face. You see now, don't you? Kovacs said. Humanity isn't just dominant. We're supreme, and we'll crush anyone who might threaten that supremacy. Vox could only whimper in response as guards dragged him to a cage barely large enough to stand in. Through the haze of pain and despair, one thought crystallized in his shattered mind. The humans weren't the benign species he'd believed them to be. They were monsters, and they were coming for his people. Meanwhile, in a war room several levels up, Admiral Jandov briefed an elite Black Ops team. Johnny stood at attention, his face a mask of concentration, as holographic displays showed Betazoid defensive positions. Thanks to the intel extracted from our guest, Jandov said, we can bypass their security and take out their leadership in one swift strike. Freeman, you'll lead the assault. Use whatever force necessary. Johnny nodded, his eyes cold. Understood, sir. We'll get it done. As the team geared up, Johnny reviewed the mission parameters. The stolen memories from Vox's mind would allow them to slip past the capital's defenses undetected. From there, they'd eliminate or capture key targets before the Betazoids even realized they were under attack. Under cover of darkness, Johnny's squad deployed from stealth dropships, their liquid armor rendering them nearly invisible. They moved through the streets like ghosts, guided by intimate knowledge of the city's layout. One by one, they struck their targets. The Betazoid War Minister was dragged from his bed, a neural disruptor clamped to his skull before he could raise the alarm. The head of planetary defense toppled mid-stride, a precision dart delivering a cocktail of paralytic agents. Within hours, the entire leadership was in chains, spirited away to black sites scattered across human-controlled space. Threats of torture and public humiliation ensured their cooperation as human operatives assumed control of the government. The Betazoid military found itself crippled from within as sleeper agents activated, sabotaging key systems and sowing chaos in the ranks. Any attempts at resistance were swiftly crushed, the humans always one step ahead thanks to their ill-gotten intelligence. As dawn broke over the Betazoid capital, the streets erupted in panic. Civilians poured out of their homes, only to be met by squads of cybernetically enhanced human soldiers. Suitcase-sized devices hummed to life, projecting fields that locked down neural activity in entire city blocks. The Betazoid people could only watch in horror as their world fell, their once proud civilization reduced to another conquest in humanity's relentless march across the stars. The Betazoid Empire fell, its once proud civilization crushed under the unstoppable tide of human aggression. Vox, broken and defeated, found himself cast into the abyss of Tartarus. His cell was a twisted mockery of space-time, an infinitesimal pocket dimension anchored to the event horizon of a supermassive black hole. Seconds stretched into eternities as Vox huddled in the corner, his mind assaulted by an endless stream of visions. He saw his homeworld, its gleaming spires toppled and replaced by brutalist human architecture. Cyborg enforcers patrolled the streets, their augmented limbs gleaming in the harsh light of a false sun. Citizens shuffled along, heads bowed, eyes vacant. In the public squares, massive screens blared human propaganda. The voices of collaborators echoed through the air, extolling the virtues of human rule. "Embrace progress," they chanted. "Submit to ascension." Vox watched helplessly as generations of Betazoid children were herded into re-education centers, their innate psychic abilities suppressed by neural inhibitors. They sat in rows, reciting human history and pledging allegiance to Earth. The visions shifted, revealing darker horrors. Public executions carried out with cold efficiency. Dissidents dragged to torture camps, their screams echoing across desolate wastelands. In secret laboratories, Betazoid genetics were rewritten, creating a new breed of servants tailored to human needs. Just as Vox felt his sanity slipping away, the cell door slid open with a hiss. Johnny Freeman stood there, now adorned with the insignia of a colonel. His face was an emotionless mask as he spoke. "On your feet, alien. High Command has a job for you." Vox stumbled to his feet, legs weak from disuse. Johnny snapped heavy manacles around his wrists and ankles. The suppression field emanating from them crushed Vox's psychic senses, leaving him blind and disoriented. They marched through twisting corridors that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. Finally, they emerged onto the bridge of a massive dreadnought. Through the view screen, Vox saw the swirling cosmic tapestry of the Andromeda Galaxy. "Watch," Johnny commanded, shoving Vox towards the front of the bridge. "Watch and bear witness to the dawn of human dominion." The ship's weapon systems hummed to life. Swarms of relativistic kill vehicles streaked across space, punching through planetary defenses without difficulty. Antimatter warheads detonated in silent, apocalyptic fury. World after world vanished in cataclysmic explosions. Entire star systems were snuffed out in an instant. The corpses of gas giants drifted through space, their atmospheres stripped away by human weaponry. Johnny's voice droned on, a steady stream of tactical updates and strategic assessments. Sector 17 pacified, resistance in the Cygnus Arm neutralized, proceeding to Phase 3 of the operation. Vox's legs gave out as he watched helplessly. The massacre continued unabated, spreading across the galaxy like a virulent plague. Civilizations that had endured for millions of years were wiped from existence in mere hours. Then, on the main view screen, a familiar blue-green orb appeared. Vox's breath caught in his throat as he recognized his homeworld. "No," he whispered, "then please no." But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The dreadnought's main cannon powered up, its muzzle glowing with barely contained energy. Vox howled in anguish as the beam lanced out, piercing the planet's core. Betazoid Prime shattered like glass, its fragments scattering across the void. Billions of lives snuffed out in an instant. Vox felt something break inside him, a fundamental part of his being crumbling away. Around him, the human crew celebrated. They laughed and cheered, treating the obliteration of an entire species as little more than a successful training exercise. As the fires of genocide raged across Andromeda, Vox finally understood the horrifying truth. Humanity wasn't content with mere conquest. They sought to remake the universe in their image, erasing all that came before. The dreadnought turned, setting course for new galaxies ripe for pacification. Vox slumped to the floor, his pupils dilating from the incomprehensible scale of the slaughter he had witnessed. Johnny hauled him to his feet. "Back to your cell, alien. Your job here is done." As Vox was dragged away, he caught one last glimpse of the view screen. The Milky Way glowed in the distance, a cancer spreading its tendrils across the cosmic web. And at its heart sat Earth, the nexus of a dark empire that would consume all in its path.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.